Morning.
Morning. Am I in the corner?
Yeah.
You said-
Yep. So just the mode or what?
Yeah, just the mode.
Okay. Anybody else run into a different question they want me to do?
47.
47. Okay. Yep.
51.
51. Oh, now we're getting to the big numbers. Mr. G's basketball game is on point. I didn't write that, but I thought that was pretty nicely written.
I just have a question about those kinds of problems. Should we just, if it's like within a percent, should we just keep it?
Yes. So during the test up on the board, I'm going to give you guys the standard deviation percentages. And because I rounded the percentages to be kind of like nicer whole numbers, your answers are sometimes going to be slightly off, like an answer key. So especially on this answer key had the answers to the 10th of a percent, I think it was. And so yours would always be kind of slightly off from that. But I'll know that when I'm correcting the tests. And depending on the method you use, you might get a slightly different answer. And so I'll just look at your work, and if you did it right, that's all I'm looking for. Do we really only have 3 questions on the whole thing? Did this overall seem to go pretty well? I kind of thought that you would have a lot more questions on 43 to 47.
No, just 47.
So, because I know a lot of you got to them in class yesterday, and so maybe you figured it out at that point. Once you see how to do those, they definitely are not bad at all. But okay, well then go ahead.
Can you just do 43?
I can. Yep.
44.
44. Okay. Let me start with 37 then. So, find mean, median, and mode of each set. Sounds like mean and median wasn't an issue for most people. And a lot of people asked me about the mode during class yesterday. This one's kind of unique because out of the 6 numbers, there's 2 of each. So, technically, there isn't a number that's the most common. But they're also all tied for the most common. So depending on how you view the perspective, you could answer it either way. So on 37, if you answered 12, 13, 15, I'm good with that because they're all tied for the most common. If you also answered no mode because there isn't anything that's the most common, then I really would have accepted that as well. So I believe this one is the technically correct answer. I don't even know what the answer key had. Probably 12, 13, 15? Yeah. But I would have understood anybody answering no mode as well. No mode is usually only reserved for one of every number. So that's usually the only time they use no mode. Okay. 43. This one was kind of tricky. And honestly, the first time I did this question, I accidentally wrote X was 7 because I just looked at it too fast. So you've got 5 numbers, and the one number is kind of hidden, so you're supposed to try to figure it out. But you're told that this set of numbers has a third quartile of 7. Well, to figure out the quartiles, you kind of have to go through the steps to figure out median and all that. And you figure out 5 as a median. Pretty easy because there's only 5 numbers. But when you go to figure out third quartile, it's the middle of the second half. And the second half is anything after the median. So second half is X and 9. So technically, 7 is in between those two. And that's where I made a mistake when I first just glanced at it. So the third quartiles seems like it should be right on the 4th number, but it's not. So to figure out X, I know that there's 2 numbers between 7 and 9. So then that would mean there's 2 numbers between 7 and X. And so X has to be 5. Because I know it's right in the middle of the 2. Does that make sense, or do you want me to kind of like redo that last part? Yeah? Okay. So if I have X and I have 9, and I know that this number 7 is directly in the middle. For me to figure out how to make 7 directly in the middle, I need to figure out how far those numbers are apart. They're 2 numbers away. That automatically means that you're 2 numbers away from that X. So 7 minus the 2 would make it 5. And then 44 is going to be similar. So let me zoom in if I can. Not much bigger, but it'll work. So you've got a whole bunch of numbers. And it's got 1 missing, where after this it was started to be 2 numbers missing. So it's got 1 number missing, and then you're told there's an interquartile range of 7, which feels like kind of a weird piece of information to be given. But the fact that we're told the interquartile range means I know I'm going to have to figure out the quartiles. So I go through the work to figure out the median, which I believe was 7. So let's see, I have 4 numbers before, 4 numbers after, so it's 7. The second half is those 4 numbers. Third quartile is 11 because it's in between 11 and 11. First quartile would be right here between 3 and Y. Now, we're not directly told what the first quartile is, but we're told that there's 7 numbers between Q1 and Q3. That's what interquartile range means. So if I subtract 7 from the 11, it's kind of telling me that the first quartile is 4. Even though it doesn't directly say it, it's telling me that the first quartile is 4. And if I know 4 is directly in the middle of 3 and some letter, well, then I figure that out. So that's 1 number apart. That would be 1 number apart, and also give me 5, which feels like it's kind of a theme so far. You kind of have to just use logic to figure these out, and then use facts you know about quartiles, medians, things like that. There isn't a set way to do all of these or any of these. They're just the way they are. 47 was the next one. I was going to say, I thought I would have gotten a lot more questions on 47, but I think just a lot of people didn't get there during the day. So we've got 5x, 8, 8, 10, 13, y, 22. The middle, I think, is right there. Yes. 4 numbers before, 4 numbers after. So the median is 9. I don't even know if I'm going to need it yet, but I'm figuring it out. Median is 9. Third quartile is right there. First quartile is right there. It says it has a mean of 11. Okay, so this has a lot of information, huh? And only 1 mode. The 1 mode part, I think, is where everybody got really confused. Maybe not? Bryce? What does that mean when it only has 1 mode?
It means that there's only one, or it means that it can't have one number that, or,
Is there currently a mode?
yes.
Okay, 8. Okay.
And also, the whole mean of 11 thing, I did have a question about that, I just didn't remember till now. Since the currents, like 5, 8, 8, 5x, 8, 8, 10, 13, y, 22, has a mean of 11, and it doesn't, if you change it, then it changes the mean. And I tried like every number, unless it was like 1 or 2. There's no way to change it without changing the mean.
I'll back up. So I'm going to guess when you found the mean that you divided by 6 instead of 8.
Yes, I divided by 6, and I divided by.
And
more.
I'm going to guess that when you put in numbers you still divided by 6 on accident.
No,
You divided by 8?
yep,
Oh. Well, then something's off.
yep,
Okay. Well, then let's figure it out.
okay.
So the fact that it can only have one mode and 8 is already the mode means the numbers you pick can't be 5, can't be 13, can't be 22. That's all that part is telling you. I don't even know why that's a condition, but it is. It's just telling you that you can't make another double. Okay, so mean of 11. With 8 numbers, that means they should add up to 88. Because 88 divided by 11 would give you... Wait, I'm dumb. I'm not. I shouldn't say I'm dumb. I don't want them to add to 88. 8 numbers. Yeah, it was 88. What am I doing? I didn't have enough coffee yet.
You need a Celsius.
That's true. I forgot. I should switch to Celsius.
Yep.
A mean of 11 would mean they would add up to 88. You divide by 8 numbers, and then that would give you the mean of 11. Okay, so currently, what do they add up to? 5 plus 8 plus 8,
66.
10 plus 13 plus 22, 66. Sounds good?
I'm pretty sure it's not.
Okay, so they currently add up to 66. And if we need them to add up to 88, then that means the 2 numbers we're looking for have to add up to 22. Now, we don't have to, how should I say this? Kayla. Can X be any number, or is there only certain numbers it can be?
Well, I don't know. I guess there's only certain numbers it can be.
What would they be? But you're right.
I said on 47. I said it was 7.
Just as a random guess.
I don't remember how I figured it out.
Okay, so the only numbers X can be is 5, 6, 7, and 8.
It can't be 5.
Can't be 5.
We're getting there. Yep, you're right. So it can only be 5, 6, 7, 8 because these are already put in order. So it has to fit in there. And then Y can only be, this one's going to be annoying to write, Y can only be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Because it has to be between 13 and 22. And correct, we already said that there can only be one mode, so you can't have another double, can't have 5, can't have 13, can't have 22. So we only have those numbers to pick from, and they have to add up to 22. So I just need to pick 2 numbers together that add up to 22. So I could have picked what I circle in green. I could have picked 16 and 6.
So you get multiple answers here.
Yep. I could have picked 17 and 15. Or I could have picked 8 and 14. So as long as your 2 numbers added up to 22 and they fit in those 2 spots, it's correct. So those are the 3 pairs you could have picked. So I'm guessing, Kayla, you said you picked 7, so you probably had 15 for the other one. Excellent. So 6 and 22, 6 and 16, or 7 and 15, or 8 and 14. Those could have been your X and Y combos. I didn't even look at the answer key. I don't know if it listed all 3 sets of them or how it had it listed. It probably just gave you 1 set. Is that okay, or was this one felt like much harder than the others? You guys can't be this tired. It's almost 9 o'clock. It was snowing, so you definitely got snow on you as you walked in from the car, so it had to have woken you up a little bit. Apparently not.
What do you say?
And today's the day you sign up for wind time, so it's sort of fun.
We signed up for wind time today?
Yeah, that's what we're doing during Raptor time.
Oh my god.
Okay. Let's see, did anybody, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I almost skipped 51. I was gonna say, did anybody ask one after 47? Who asked the Mr. G one? Okay, anything in particular that, what about this threw you off, or is it just you didn't know how to set it up? I don't
I
know.
just didn't know how to set it up.
Okay. So Mr. G apparently has a basketball game that's on point. The mean of his scores per game is 22, with a standard deviation of 4. Now, we're not going to go into the fact that it seems kind of odd to figure out your standard deviation of scores. I feel like if your basketball game is on point, you wouldn't even try to figure out your mean and standard deviation. What percent of the games did Mr. Grev score between 22 and 30? So it doesn't directly say this is supposed to be normally distributed. And it doesn't say, so I know that threw some people off. That means it's set up on one of these curves. And on these curves, the mean is what we're given for the middle. So we're told it's 22. Standard deviation is kind of what gives us those lines that we draw that break up the percents. And so the one to the right would be 4 more, so 26. The one to the left would be 4 less, so 18. I didn't even look we're supposed to try to figure out 22 to 30 points. Oh, well then I guess I didn't even need to figure out the 18. The second line to the right would be 4 more, which is 30. So this is kind of asking us what percent of the games fell into this section, 22 to 30. And the first big section was 34%. The next section after 34 was 13. And so then we would add those two together to figure out what percent of his games fit into those two blocks. 47? And then the answer key would have actually had 34.1 and then 13.6. So what was it, 47.7 or something? What? 47.5? All right. Yeah, so you guys didn't have the decimal part of it, so. Okay. How'd the rest of the review, I mean, like, does this review seem like it went okay? Your test is going to be awfully similar to this. The only thing that this review didn't have was misleading graphs. It didn't have misleading graphs, and that's partially because it was the day before this review, and I think most everybody found them very easy. But just make sure that you study misleading graph, reasons or whatever, like common things that can happen. Yeah.
Can you do number
40? Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the one that was worded kind of strange. The actual question wasn't terrible, but it was worded kind of strange. So it says the number of races that a runner won every year for 10 years is given. Find the number of wins within one standard deviation. Now I think that's the wording that threw most people off. Hi, thanks. I think that's the wording that threw most people off, was that part, like not sure what you're supposed to do. But the fact that I see the words standard deviation means that I know I'm going to have to figure out the mean, and I'm going to have to figure out standard deviation info. Like, I'm going to have to set one of these up because the word standard deviation kind of implies that. So I'm assuming somebody has it written down. I want to say the mean was like 7 point something. 7.5, perfect. And then when you figure out standard deviation, it was 2.06? 2.1?
65.
I suppose 2.1. Yeah, I mean, I guess it matters what you rounded to. So I'll use 2.1. So if I add 2.1 to 7.5, I get 9.6. If I subtract 2.1 from 7.5, I get 5.4. And I don't know if I just wrote all that too fast or not. do you want me to go over where I got some of those numbers from or anything? Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. The reason I only wrote one line to the right and one line to the left is that's what within one standard deviation means. It means one standard deviation to the right, one to the left. And so we know 5.4 to 9.6 is going to be within one standard deviation. The way this question was phrased and asked is it wants to know how many of these numbers, because these are the years, how many of these numbers were within 5.4 to 9.6. So 7 is, 8 is, 8, 6, 9, 7. So 6 of the numbers, 6 of the years were within that window. And yeah, it was worded a little different, so it was kind of hard to look at the answer key and figure out what they meant by 6. Okay, I'll stop the recording here. I'm sure some of you haven't finished the review yet, / some of you need to finish up your homework assignments. So I would be happy to help you here. We get done at 21 today because it's the short hour. Basically, try to get everything finished up and ready to be turned in. You guys are welcome to turn in your assignments during the hour today. Like, does anybody need me to read off to you who hasn't turned in something by now? I went through yesterday at the end of the school day and updated everything that was resubmitted. So, I mean, like, if everything was good, I put in your new score. If something was still wrong, I wrote a note. Basically, the score that I put in yesterday at the end of the school day was what I had.